In 1982, 3 people decided to build and finance Thompson Boling Arena. The state of Tennessee, University of Tennessee, and they said, we need a partner, and they called Knox County. Knox County bonded, I think, $12 million, we co-signed for $12 million to help build Thompson Boling Arena. They formed a group, they co-signed the loan, they built Thompson Boling Arena. Those bonds were paid off in 20 years from every ticket sale and every all sorts of different ways to self-fund that. I think there was some amusement tax involved with every ticket and popcorn and all that. And then those bonds were paid off, and we have a great asset. So the baseball stadium is essentially, the big picture of it is the same way. You have the sports authority that's been formed. This is a quasi-governmental entity, and that has been formed and has a board of directors. And so it wants to build a stadium. I'll just use those references. It wants to build this nice new stadium. And that stadium costs $65 million. Well, there's not $65 million laying around between the city and the county to invest in that. So they have to go out to the bond market and they have to say, hey, lend us $65 million to build the stadium. Well, the bond market goes, we don't know who you are, you're brand new, you have no credit, so how are you gonna pull this off? Well, you got a great plan, but you got no backup. So this sports authority with its own independent board goes out and it says, hey, City of Knoxville, Knox County, would you co-sign the loan? Would you guarantee it in case something dramatically happens, just like we did with Thompson Boling Arena? And county and the city say, we'll put our reputation and our finances and we'll take a calculated risk and we'll guarantee it. Just like your kid goes out for that first car, you gotta co-sign that car. You hope that's a calculated risk, that you hope that that car is gonna be paid off and not wrecked, right? So you go through, you make sure the financing's good, you make sure the package is good, and then the bonds companies say, great, here's your $65 million, go build your stadium. And then the tax districts that's been set up by our legislature captures all the sales tax within the footprint of the stadium for, I believe it's 30 years. And so every hot dog, every ticket sale, every souvenir hat, whatever, all of those have a tax on them, and instead of that tax going to the state, it gets used to pay for the bonds. And so over a period of 30 years, all that money goes to pay for the thing that's guaranteed by us. And then when we're done, the city and the county will have no bonded debt on that, and we'll own an asset. Randy Boyd or the soccer team, they won't own it. City and county own it. So it's essentially a self-perpetuating, it pays for itself setup, but it never ends up on our balance sheet, it never impacts our taxes, and certainly doesn't hit our budget.
The local sales tax portion, right, is that going to?
That would continue to go as, there's different ways that taxes this thing out, but basically the stuff that would have normally gone to the state will be used locally. And I believe the local stuff, this is where you got to get into the fine detail, but essentially right now that area produces virtually nothing, and then when you create something, it builds for that. Kind of like what we just went through with the Andrew Johnson building. I mean, it's been a building that's sat on the government's books for 20 years. It's produced 0 property tax revenue. And so we've gone through a process in which we've sold that, it'll be developed, the schools have moved, and it goes back on the tax rolls, and it'll start generating some revenue. So